Hey everybody, welcome back. Today's video is going to be replace the wheel bearing out of the knuckle that I just replaced. I just put this new knuckle on, used, because I sheared off one of the caliper bolts. Got everything back together finally, took it for a test drive, and I was getting this very weird vibration. Felt like it was coming from the front of the car, but I touched nothing with the front end. I really touched nothing from the hub back here, but I'm not sure what it was. So the knuckle that I put in, wheel bearing, it was in it, I think, had 160,000 miles, so it is my only guess of what could be making the vibration. So I'm going to go ahead and tear this back apart and swap the wheel bearing out and see what happens. Sorry for the clicking. I have my diesel heater running again. Currently got ribs in the smoker, so right now my garage door is open. Don't normally put a smoker in the garage, but this morning it was raining and I didn't feel like dealing with it. Moving the slide pin and the retaining clip from the brakes. Let me get these brand new brake pads out. Didn't even really get a chance to bed them in, but ran out of time. Well, not ran out of time, but didn't want to drive it with this vibration. After I found the vibration, I actually jacked the car up, put it in drive while it was up on the jack stand, and of course it didn't make a noise, but there was no real load on the bearing. So the pads are out. Why am I jumping around? I don't know. I'm going to get this cotter pin out. I actually need to replace this, but I don't have any. Part of it broke off when I was taking the axle nut off the first time. These shouldn't be tight. Just put them on yesterday. It's just a 19 millimeter. They only get torqued to 58 foot-pounds, so they should come off pretty easy. Brand new bolts. Oh, where's my handy dandy caliper block? Oh, more snow, great. Joys of working on your car in the middle of winter. Need a 10 mil to take the speed sensor out. I think I would have figured out by now to have all my tools handy. So, I read a couple posts on how to do this on Club Lexus. They say that you can easily get these bearings out with everything still on the car. Since I already had my old knuckle out, I took it out on the workbench, and I think it is going to be so much easier doing it that way. The thing that seemed like the biggest problem to me is there is a dust shield on the back of the knuckle here, and they say you can pry it off through the speed sensor hole and this lower caliper mounting hole, but yeah, great, my light's dead. But it seems more difficult than any. I put it on the workbench, I strapped it down, and I was able to easily pry it off. Plus, this one looks a lot more corroded than the one that's coming off the car, or was on my car originally. I'm going to pause the video. I'll be back in a couple minutes. I got to go get a new light, and plus I got to take my ribs off the smoker and wrap them up. I'll be back. Alright, ribs are wrapped up, back in the smoker. Lost my train of thought. So anyway, they were saying that there's a way that you can pry off the rear dust cover going through the lower caliper bolt hole and the speed sensor with a screwdriver. There is not much room to do it. I took the old one off using a small pry bar that doesn't fit through those holes, but doing it on my workbench. So I hate to do it, but I'm going to take this entire knuckle back off. Just for me, it seems easier. It's more work, but it's less work, if it makes any sense. So, all the ball joints. $19mm. Little tap. I'm just using a small dead blow because I have it. These have only been seated for a day, so they should pop right out. Proving me wrong. Might have to get a real hammer. I am really surprised at how much that seated in that amount of time. Then I'll get my separator set out. I don't really feel like banging everything up with a big hammer again if I don't have to. I love when things don't fit. I always, and another light died. This is great. Perfect. There we go. This off. I'm just wedging the caliper back there because I need more space, and this would be so much better if I had lights that worked. Out. Axle's actually loose, which is great. Get this last lower arm undone. These are all the same nut. And gonna attach the ride height sensor, disconnect the sway bar link just so I can move things easier. The 10mm wrench already walked off, as they're known to do. Sorry about the lighting. Actually, I don't think I need to unhook the ride height sensor, because I barely have to drop this bar down. Five millimeter on the center of the sway bar link, 14 for the nut. This one lower arm, I could not find a good way to get a separator on it, so that's really the only one that I had to use the hammer for. There it goes. So much easier than last time. Yeah, the ride height sensor's fine. Last thing I gotta do, I hung this out of the way last time, but Need a swivel to get the shock mount off. Might as well take my flashlight off, it's not working. Sorry if that block of wood's in the way. Should I put a socket on it? Really, Doug? Come on now. That is way too much extension. That's why I took the ride height sensor off. It's right where I need to get with that. Guess it's coming off. Sorry you can't see in here better, but limited space. No clue why I grabbed my super long extension. The medium's what I wanted, but I don't feel like going back to the toolbox. There really bad on there. Just needed a little more pop. Why'd I take my gloves off? It's like I like washing my hands 50 times. Shock mount's the only one that has a different bolt. This one has a little flange on it. Then there's a washer between the shock mount. Where the extra hands come in use. How in the world? There we go. I knew I should have bought the tool for these springs. So I'm taking the bearing back apart. What did I use? A screwdriver and pliers. Here's what the dust shield looks like. Got to pry that off to get to the bolts that hold the wheel bearing in place. blue spring. This other spring's so much easier. It's just a little guy. Basically need to take those off so I can get the cable to the e-brake unbolted. Yeah, it's in there. It'll come out when it wants to. I'm gonna end up taking the shoes out of this just because it's easier, so I'm just gonna sit all these extra parts aside. Might even, I don't have the tool for this, but I can usually get these out with a little twist. Wow, those are seized. Retaining clips for the shoes. Probably just going to compare. I actually think my shoes were in better shape, so likely just going to use those. That attaches on to the cable, and then this just seals up, and then this just sits in between the two shoes. So yeah, this wheel bearing looks to be in a lot worse shape than the one that was on my car. I'll show it to you when I get them out side by side, but I think this is what we're doing. Using tools the wrong way. Popping the axle loose. Now this is where I had a second set of hands last time, and I don't tonight. So let's see what we can do. That's my finger getting pinched. Success. There's the washer that goes on the shock mount. Need an extension on my 19. Actually, I think I need the long extension for this, but let's see what we got. Yeah, I might reach it. Now you know, because it's only been on there for 5 miles, it's seized up again, so let's tap it. There we go. There's two 10 mils that I need to take off on the retainer for the cable for the e-brake. Forgot about those. Little retainer holds the cable in place. Lost nuts, one of them at least. You know, if I had better light, I'd see where that went. Of course I don't. I have other ones. All right, I'm gonna pause this and get this up on the workbench. Alright, I got this set up on my bench. Sorry, not a lot of space. And no really good place to put my camera, so it's hanging from a bike mounted on the wall. Just removing some extra things. This is what holds that, guess you could say, parking brake retainer thing in. I already soaked this down a little bit with some ATF and acetone mixture. This is what we need to get off, because as you see, the bolts are hidden behind it. They say you can pry this back with it on the car and then carefully pound it in to get it reseated. For me, this is easier. When I get this other brake shoe off, and since I don't need this back on the road today, likely going to be taking a trip to get an actual tool for this. Oh, that one came off so much easier. Just going to set this aside so I know which one's which. Alright, so I'm going to work on trying to pry this up. See what happens here. So this is what I was saying. They say you can go in through this hole and kind of get in it to pry it up, but that's all the space you have to work. You can't really leverage it. Same thing with the speed sensor hole. It only gives you pressure in one spot. So with a little pry bar, you can actually get around it a little better. It's in there. I found with the other one, once I got it moving a little bit, it did come free then. It's on there. A little bit of movement. Sure is a good way to hold this down. There we go. So there's the one that came on the used part. There's the one that came off my car. I mean, it's just aluminum. I think it's aluminum. No damage to it, so I'm just going to put whichever one back on. Of course, I'll clean them up a little bit, but all it is a dust shield to keep the speed sensor cleaned.
Dude, favorite Mac, you turn right and see another animal, just smoked a puma.
What's that?
You heard me. Yeah.
Recording a tear it apart video. The camera's pointing at the part. It can't see ya. Let me know how it goes, buddy. So with this being on the car, what you would do is thread a puller into the hub and use like a slide hammer to pull it out. I don't know if this is the right method or not, but how I got the other one out was just using an extension on the bolt and slowly, just little by little, pounding them out. Took about 15 minutes to get it out, but it came out clean. There was no damage to it. and then once it started coming out more, I pried it out from the other side. So I'm going to thread these bolts in quite a ways just so I only have a little bit sticking up, and then as I go I'll slowly back them off. I am not going to record this part unless you want to see me hitting this with a hammer for the next 15 minutes. Alright, I'm back. My 15-minute project turned into about 45. The new one, or the old one I should say, this one, old one is in the used part I bought, much more corroded, and it fought me tooth and nail getting it out. Eventually got it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the one that originally came on my car into the knuckle that I got. I mean, they feel pretty similar, but I have no clue where this random vibration came from after I replaced this knuckle. So we're going to use the new knuckle and my old wheel bearing. Worst case, everything's fine either way, and I have an extra wheel bearing. I mean, I was going to replace these anyhow. If this solves the problem, I was going to refresh everything just because of the miles on my car, but I didn't plan on doing it in the middle of winter, so just clean everything up. Doesn't matter, but I'd rather work on clean parts, and if it's off the car, no better time to clean it up a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. So I was using these two blocks stacked up just because the shock mount kind of gets in the way. These 3 points help stabilize it a little bit. First thing to go on is the dust shield. The cutout is for the brake caliper. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I compared the one that came on my car to the one that came with the replacement. The face of mine looks nicer, but the back of the other one's a little cleaner. Doesn't matter. Not really. Now the only thing with the wheel bearing, I shouldn't say the only thing, the wheel bearing kind of torques itself in place. So what I think I'm going to do is put this upside down, set the wheel bearing where I need it, and then thread the bolts through. Oh, this is going to be so much easier than taking it apart. Just trying to get everything lined up. The only thing is, my bolts aren't long enough, so I might actually have to impact this into place a little bit. There we go, that one. Yeah, still need a little more. Let's see what we got. Maybe if we can. Yeah, we only got one thread. really don't know if there's an easier way to do this. Take there it went. I don't know if it went all the way, but it went. And this is my impact slowest setting because I don't want to mess anything up. And at the point, I'm going to tighten this by hand. I gotta go look up, see if there's torque specs for these.